My neighbor, Mrs. Gable, had this peculiar habit. At precisely 3:07 a.m., she'd sleepwalk. I know this because the first time it happened, I was pulling an all-nighter for a deadline. I heard a soft click from my front door, followed by the gentle creak of it opening. My heart leaped into my throat. I grabbed the heaviest book on my desk and crept into the hallway. Standing there, silhouetted by the dim streetlights filtering through my window, was Mrs. Gable. Her white nightgown seemed to glow in the dark. Her eyes were closed, her face serene, as if she were dreaming of something pleasant. She took a few steps into my living room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor, then turned around, walked back out, and closed the door behind her with that same soft click. The next morning, I saw her in the hallway, watering her prize-winning begonias. She was a sweet, frail woman with a cloud of white hair and a smile that always reached her kind eyes. I hesitated, then decided against mentioning it. What would I even say? "Hi, Mrs. Gable, you broke into my apartment last night, but don't worry, you were asleep?" It sounded insane. I just smiled and complimented her flowers. But it happened again. The next week, 3:07 a.m. Click, creak. There she was, same nightgown, same peaceful expression. This time, she walked to my kitchen, opened the fridge, stared into it for a moment, and then left. The cold air from the open refrigerator door was the only proof I had that it wasn't just a waking nightmare. I started leaving my door bolted, but somehow, she always got in. It was as if the lock simply unlatched for her. I'd hear the distinctive slide of the deadbolt, a sound that made my blood run cold, followed by the click and the creak. I became obsessed. I set up a small camera, one of those nanny cams, pointed at my front door. I needed proof, something to show myself that I wasn't losing my mind. The nightly visits continued, each one slightly different. One night she rearranged the fruit in my fruit bowl. Another night she stood by my bookshelf, her fingers tracing the spines of books she'd never read. She never touched me, never seemed to notice me huddled under my blankets, watching her through a crack in my bedroom door. It was terrifying, but also strangely routine. Part of me started to expect it. 3:07 a.m. was her time. This went on for 2 months. I grew accustomed to the sound, the brief interruption to my sleep. I stopped feeling scared and started feeling a weird sort of pity for her. Her husband had passed away a year ago. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe her sleeping mind was searching for something or someone. Then, one day, the building manager, a gruff man named Mr. Henderson, was doing routine maintenance checks. He knocked on my door. "Just checking the smoke detectors," he grumbled. As he was finishing up, I decided to casually bring it up. "Hey, Mr. Henderson," I started, trying to sound nonchalant. "Silly question, but have you ever had any issues with Mrs. Gable from 3B? You know, with her, walking around at night." Mr. Henderson stopped what he was doing and turned to look at me, his bushy eyebrows knitted together in confusion. "Mrs. Gable? Son, what are you talking about?" "You know," I said, a knot tightening in my stomach. "She sleepwalks. Sometimes she ends up in here." He stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment. His expression softened from confusion to something that looked like concern. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "I don't know what you've been seeing, but that's impossible. Mrs. Gable had a bad fall about 3 months ago. Slipped in her bathtub." He paused, and the silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. "She's been in a coma at St. Mary's Hospital ever since. Her daughter has been taking care of her apartment, clearing it out. They're moving her things into storage next week." The world tilted on its axis. My ears started ringing. 3 months. That was a month before her nightly visits had even started. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, that can't be right. I see her. I saw her this morning, watering her flowers." "Her flowers are all plastic, son," Mr. Henderson said gently. "Have been for years. Easier for her to manage." He gave me a worried look. "Maybe you should get some rest. You look like you haven't slept in weeks." He left, and I was alone with the silence. The silence was louder than any noise I had ever heard. I stumbled to my laptop and pulled up the footage from the camera. I scrolled back through weeks of recordings, my hands shaking so violently I could barely control the mouse. I found the first night, the night she came in and just stood there. I clicked play. The video showed my front door. At 3:07 a.m., The deadbolt on my screen visibly slid open on its own. The doorknob turned. The door creaked open, revealing the empty, dimly lit hallway beyond. It stayed open for about a minute. The air in my apartment seemed to shimmer slightly, a faint distortion, like heat rising from pavement. Then, the door creaked shut, and the deadbolt slid back into place. I watched video after video. Every single night, it was the same. The door would open, but no one was there. The fruit in my bowl would slowly, imperceptibly shift on its own. The refrigerator door would swing open, held by an unseen hand. The books on my shelf would rearrange themselves, levitating for a moment before settling into a new spot. I never saw her. Not on the camera. She was never there. All this time, I hadn't been watching a sweet old woman sleepwalk. I had been watching an empty room. I had been filling in the blanks with my own mind, creating a harmless explanation for the impossible because the truth was too terrifying to comprehend. My blood turned to ice. My gaze drifted towards the clock on my wall. It was almost midnight. In about 3 hours, the lock on my door would slide open again. But this time, I knew. I knew that whatever was coming through that door wasn't Mrs. Gable. It was just something that used to be her. Something that was still looking for a way home. And I had been letting it in, night after night. Tonight, I won't be hiding in my bedroom. I'll be sitting in the living room, waiting. I have to see it. I have to see the emptiness where she's supposed to be. I need to know what I'm really dealing with. The clock is ticking. And for the first time in months, I am truly, utterly terrified of 3:07 a.m. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Stay safe out there.